Hello, it's Richard Pearce from FinextraTV, and I'm joined today by a remarkable lady. Her background blends three facets that I'm always really super excited about, which is finance, technology, and sustainability. And with her professional background as a chartered accountant, investment banker, executive coach, impact investing, fintech, blockchain specialist, the list goes on. She also serves on the board of for-profit and not-for-profit organizations, and has a remarkable background as well. Darshita Gillies, founder and CEO of Maanch, welcome.
Thank you, Richard.
Great to see you today, and I'm so excited about this conversation because it's fascinating your journey that you've been on. But I really want to focus today on the things that you're doing at Maanch. But first of all, do tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to found Maanch.
I'll tell you things maybe that others don't know and haven't seen in other audio or other podcasts.
I love the sound of that.
Also adds to versatility of what's out there in the web about me. But I would say one thing that has really driven me to where I am today is asking the question, how can I help others? And first the other was me. So the first, when I was young, it was how can I help myself, because I don't like where I am. And we were in a very humble home, and we were blessed with the love and support of the community, but I also knew that it was not fair that we had to experience what we experienced. And coming 30 years now, 30, almost 35 years into the future now, and I look back at what we had back then, I've just expanded my definition of who is family and who is me. And I embrace the we in the me, and I embrace the world as our family. And I start to think about what can I do to make us have a very different future, a future that's inclusive, a future that is fair, but a future that really harnesses on the potential, the human potential each of us have. And I personally feel that technology has a huge role to play. It's almost embedded now in how we live and function, and I feel we could do so much more.
Yeah.
And that's what drives me to where I am.
It's wonderful to hear that background, and it's one of those things. I said to you, I'd kind of love to go into this detail in huge amounts, but what I really am going to do is I'm going to sort of pick up on those things, because from my perspective, I sort of looked at it and said, I'm in the world of technology and finance, and yet, like a lot of people, have a passion around conservation, environment, society, and so forth. And really, you sort of sit there, don't you? And you think, well, those three forces, if you can't bring those together to make the world a better place, what can you do? Now, you've used those levers and your experience to found Maanch, but you also are very good at saying, hang on a minute, we don't necessarily know that the money that we put into these initiatives ends up delivering the outcomes. And of course, that's a fear for many of us. So when you saw that, these levers and that concern, what have you done to sort of say, right, I'm going to go about fixing this with this kind of experience and metal that you have inside you?
I think there are three factors to that. So firstly, I think for any change to happen, it is a phased process. First is awareness. Without awareness, we will never change. So measure what matters is something that we know. But I think the first is awareness. The second is engagement around the awareness, because even if I knew, if I didn't engage with what I know in a way that I want to change it, or I want to use what I know to create something different, is really important. And the third is commitment. So even once you've engaged with something, in order to move to the next level, we need to commit to certain actions that are going to help us deliver the outcome. So it is really these three things that have driven me to think about the world as a system, and as we know how it functions, what kind of tools or what kind of services could we provide as an organization that would serve these three contexts? So the first one I started was the awareness, and this was really taking the statistics from the UN statistics division on how we are progressing against the UN Sustainable Development Goals and getting that into a format and into a way that we could understand as each of our stakeholder hats we wear, what role can we play in enabling achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals? The second thing we've done at Maanch is we've created technology that embeds engagement as a practice. And the third is commitment. We haven't come there yet. But the idea is the engagement creates the right context for commitment to occur. And for commitment to occur, there needs to be a level of trust between players and partners, and a level of trust in the underlying data. So this is something that we are focused on at this stage, is good data, good community, good technology, and good intelligence. And that will create the groundswell for committed action.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. That's a fantastic summary there. So if you bring us now back out to Munch, and it's you've said it there, I think, in the system sense, and you've given us, if you will, the ingredients, but give us a kind of a story perhaps of either one investment that's a philanthropist that's connected with the SDG dashboard that you have, that's applied the charitable contribution to a particular outcome. Give us a sense of a real story that you've been able to execute so far.
Maybe I'll give you an example on our investment products. So as Munch, we work in two rounds. We work on creating technology for effective philanthropy, but then we also have technology that enables better investment and corporate tracking of their own impact. And the reason why we are spread across these realms is because impact is one thing. We all play different parts in enabling that impact. There is no I had more impact than you. It's more we enabled that something to happen. We enabled equality of gender pay. We enabled climate action. And that is something that we are focused as an organization, is to unify the impact data, which comes in various shapes and forms, but to join it up so that we can have a unified view of how we are moving the world. To give you an example, one of the things we discovered as a big challenge in the impact finance and technology space is that impact is quite complex, and it's very hard to go down to the level of detail as to what action led to what kind of impact.
Yeah.
And then when you dig deeper, we also know that the industry and all the stakeholders in the impact space are not coordinating in the best possible way. They're coordinating in a way that probably used to work a few decades ago, doesn't work now. And so our first step was, instead of going into this big idea of everyone has an impact dashboard that tells them what things are and how they are performing on impact, we know that that data is not clear, and that the moment we put that picture out, we know that there is some element of assumption or greenwashing, whitewashing, whatever you want to call it, in creating like a clearer picture. But if you had to go with a microscope into the detail, it would be very hard to prove as to how you got to that big number. Yeah. So our first challenge has been, let's get down to the ground on where is the system broken and create systems to bridge data in a way that can lead us to create an impact dashboard. So the first thing that we worked with is to explore with fund managers, especially large funds, 100 million plus invested across multiple companies, and some of them in emerging markets, some of them in developed markets. Every investment has an impact. And every impact is done by the company doing business, but also by getting the companies to address the issues that have an impact. And fund managers and fund teams globally have millions of engagements with their investee companies to move that needle.
Yeah.
And none of that is being tracked in a systematic way, because it's that process is what's driving impact.
Yeah.
And so our first product has evolved from really understanding where is the gap in the market, and how do we actually, yes, we have the vision of joining global impact, but we're not going to get there until we create the infrastructure, the railways, that will join one station to the next, and then we can say we have this sort of country mile railway. So that's how we are using tech, is building bridges of engagement in a way that we can move and track impact data one step at a time.
Yeah, I think there's a sort of phrase which is used in which is you're greening finance, and then you're financing green, and in a sense what you're saying, you've got to sort out the finance bit first. I mean, are you able to tell us a bit more about the tech there? Is that just a question of, we have quite a good technical audience that listens into this. I assume you're using various cloud technologies and data systems. I know you've got a good bit of blockchain experience. Can you give us a sense of how you go about that from a technical perspective, or is that one we should leave for another day?
Happy to go into some of the detail, at least to give an idea. So firstly, I'll talk about why not blockchain and why we didn't use blockchain. So I studied blockchain. I wrote a whole paper at the end of the program on blockchain for philanthropy. And as we started embarking on the journey, we realized even though all the components of why blockchain should be used were there, practically it was not feasible, in part because to invest in a system that is expensive, there needs to be a groundswell and a commitment from the underlying network to use the technology. And what we found was, as a startup especially, and this will probably appeal to a lot of startups that are out there, is when you want to build technology, try and build it manually in a way that actually enables you to understand user behavior.
Yeah.
The moment that is understood and embedded, then it's easier to morph it into the most advanced technology possible. And then when you have the network effect, technologies like blockchain are really helpful in creating that strength of the network, accessible. As a solution for, if I keep the continuing example of Invest, what we decided to do was really look at where is innovation really going to make the biggest difference. And we zoned into the point where the actual engagement occurs, where the fund manager or anyone in the fund team has actually put that email or had that call and put the phone down.
Mm-hmm.
What is the first thing they can do in the next minute that's going to enable them to track that engagement? So that's what we did, is we built a system which allows them to track within 30 seconds to a minute the important aspects of that engagement in a way that the organization becomes aware of the issue that was being tracked, by whom, what kind of outcome was agreed, when it was agreed, what's the next step. And once becomes available to the entire organization in real time, it means someone in the sales side of the fund team won't end up selling the position too quickly, because they know that something's coming and the organization is actually taking steps to address something that is critical.
So you're joining up the system internally as well as obviously your external view you described.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible. And so when you look forward, in terms of the next steps, I mean, obviously you're still relatively early in this journey. I think Maanch was founded around 2018. What's next for you? What do you see coming forward? And tell us a bit more about the vision.
Oh, very good question. I could take another half an hour talking about it. I'll try to be precise. So first thing of any journey in a startup is to secure funding so that we know we are in for the long run. we raised our initial round, we closed the round, we're now raising 5 million for the next round. And that really is to build something that we know with our existing clients, but then also it's scale up so that we can take this to broader markets. But that is really, I would say, is something that you need in order to do. And most of our focus is going to be on what we do. And and now with the UK Stewardship Code 2020 requiring mandatory disclosures, and with the TCFD guidelines coming on, our focus as technology provider is to really enable the sector to be able to report on these parameters and these disclosure requirements in a streamlined way, but also in a way that helps the state to know what's going on and get the data in a way that they can make policy decisions and so on and so forth. So we are a stakeholder-oriented organization. We want to make sure that as our products don't just adjust to one stakeholder and make life easy for one, but hard for the others who are actually going to digest that information.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our time, especially in the next year, is going to involve really understanding real needs of the stakeholders involved in the disclosure process. And yeah, allied with that, getting good people on board and I don't know how the post-COVID world looks like in terms of being able to work together, but we've become digital collaboration experts. We all feel like we're doing well, even though we are in our sort of compartmentalized spaces.
Yeah, I think we can definitely work together. We've proved that. It's whether we're just missing. I said to my son the other day, I said, variety is the spice of life, and we're lacking a bit of spice at the moment. So we can definitely work though. Listen, where can people find out a bit more about you, about Maanch, and and we'll obviously keep people updated with what you're doing. But tell us a bit more about where they can get into the detail of collaborating with you.
Maanch.com, MAANCH. If they want to collaborate with us, they can reach out to Anna at Maanch, ANNA at Maanch.com. And she looks after social, but also partnerships for us. And I'm accessible as well on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to know more about my personal life or anything that can inspire them in how they conduct their lives or the choices they make, they can definitely go to darshitagillies@me.com, and there are various links and bios there to help.
Wonderful. Well, we're doing sustainablefinance.live, our workshop shortly, and I think we're going to be able to do a few things that feed into the world that you're working about. So I'm sure we'll be collaborating together. But for now, Darshita, thank you so much for sharing your story and for the great work that you're doing.
Pleasure, Richard. Thank you.